Hey, welcome to Body Doc. Probably the most common thing that enters a doctor's office in regards to low back pain are going to be the ubiquitous disc bulges. Many of you have gone to a doctor with excruciating back pain, likely been to have an x-ray taken. The doctor will do a physical exam and maybe do some orthopedic testing to find out exactly where your pain is coming from. And oftentimes it's going to come from disc bulges. Your MRIs often show signs of these disc bulges as well. And I thought today we would discuss the type of disc bulges that you might have that would need surgery and the ones that don't need surgery. So a couple of key highlights. What is a disc bulge? Well, you guys have heard about disc protrusions and disc bulges or slip discs. It goes through all different names. But ultimately, I've drawn the disc here, and imagine we've taken your spine and we've kind of put it straight towards you. And I've taken that disc right out between two of those vertebrae. And if you were to look sort of straight on down from it, from above, you would see two ports. And this is called the annulus fibrosus, and this is the nucleus pulposus. So we always liken it to sort of the jelly inside the jelly donut. You know, you've got this little metal rod that would go into a donut and squeeze this jelly into it. And if that hole where that rod went into the jelly donut were sealed, you'd have something like this. Now imagine now you squish that donut from the top, like what happens when you're standing and when gravity is having its impact on the disc. So when you're moving each day, the water in the nucleus pulposus is drifting around in and out of this annulus fibers. And it's a beautiful weight distribution mechanism that allows your spine to move about slightly, always altering to the position that you're in. It's absolutely brilliant. In fact, we haven't really figured out how to replace this entity yet with material science or disc replacements very effectively, and that's still being investigated. But we do know this: as we age, as we move, and not always from acute trauma, let's say like lifting something heavy in the gym or lifting the garbage can outside your house, or some things that sort of actually traumatize the annulus fibrosus. Those fibers start to break down, they whittle away a little bit, and they start to crack and fissure. And then when you go to bend over, whether it be to tie your shoe or pick something up off the ground, boom, you get this big ejection of this jelly material, like in the jelly donut, in through where that rod came in to fill the jelly in. It's that weak part of the donut, weak part of the annulus fibrosus. It's extremely common. In fact, most of you guys have gotten MRIs and you're going to see multiple levels of this. Now what's interesting is the correlation between a disc protrusion and findings on MRI is really poor in regards to pain patterns, and it's very frustrating. I mean, I wish it were easier. I wish everybody actually could come into this office, bring their MRIs with them, and take a look at it together here, and to say, oh, here's your problem. And a lot of times, doctors are going to give you this sort of story that, hey, we found your problem. It's right there. Unfortunately, like a very large percentage of the population have disc pathology as expressed on MRIs and with orthopedic examinations, and that's not the source of the pain, and it's not a need for surgery. So this video is mainly to help save you guys from surgery when you don't need it. And by the end of the video, you'll see there are circumstances where the MRI finding, as correlated with the physical examination, are dialed in, and to say failed efforts to help it. So I have had patients over the years here that have very quick resolutions of these problems. I had a few in this past week where they were exhibiting signs and symptoms of disc pathology, an acute bulge. And all I had to do was show them some protocols to help that disc mitigate its inflammatory effect and also start to shrink it back and get it away from the nervous system and start to heal it. So I would say maybe 90% of disc pathology can be treated non-surgically. The ones that can't be, you'll know, and you'll have failed efforts in the non-surgical front. So for instance, Mackenzie extension exercises, or chiropractic adjustments, or lumbar traction. These are the common things that are applied. So when adjustments aren't working to mitigate a problem, when traction isn't working, when exercise isn't working, and granted, granted, this is a time-dependent variable. Sometimes these things take a while to happen, and as a practitioner, I don't want to have you come here for 6 months. I'd like to resolve it quickly, and I know that a lot of my patients have said, well, when is this going to go away, doc? And sometimes I say, I don't know. Sometimes they're going away fast using the same methodologies with a similar disc bulge pathology as seen in the MRIs, and sometimes they don't. It's a very confusing and very difficult problem to know when to pull the trigger on which therapeutic options. And I think the reason for this video is to at least share with you some of the more ominous. Now, you'll see there's an image I'm going to flash here on the screen, and this is out of the New England Journal of Medicine. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to find out how much literature is available to us out there to show non-surgical disc resolution. So the idea that these annulus fibrosis, so there's a double-edged sword here. The annulus is a very fragile structure. It's made up of glycosaminoglycans, so sugar protein molecules, collagen fibrils, and water. And it's very tight and it's very well bound. In fact, I've drawn some concentric circles that you can see here, but they're actually quite tight, and there's thousands of layers of them. But they do crack and fissure over time when you move, and that's when they become penetrable, if you will, by the nucleus material in the middle as it gets pushed and squirted into that area, sometimes causing a disc bulge, sometimes hitting the nervous system, leading to sciatica. I've got some other videos in regards to like hip hinging and how to prevent these things, and also discussing, because this subject is really a mainstay of my office here. We see this quite often. But the disc material can regress. So this disc here might actually return to look like that one if you do the right things, if you understand it. In non-severe versions of this problem, this disc can regress. So years ago, there actually used to be called chymopapane injections. They used to use an enzyme found in papaya to regress this. So there have been some chemical approaches to shrinking these discs back. There's mechanical approaches to shrinking these discs back, which is showing patients Mackenzie extension activities so that the disc material, so the fluid-like nucleus pulposus is actually drawing away from where it squirted back to where it began. And that's where Robin Mackenzie's work on the subject. I have another video on that. So how much can we do? So the picture that you're seeing right here, right now that's probably flashing on your screen, is probably one of the nastiest disc bulges I've ever seen. And the article in the New England Journal of Medicine shows that in a 6-month period with the glucocorticoid injections and the proper physical therapy, the disc receded amazingly. And I always looked at this article as really just a ray of hope for most people, because I've never seen a disc bulge in my office as bad as the one that you see on the screen. So if we can cure that one, most of what you guys are coming to the office with can be cured through non-surgical means. So that's the shining light in this video is, I want everybody to be patient, slow down, relax. Your results might not come very quickly, and it doesn't require 3 days a week in an office to do it either. Time is really what's healing this thing. If I can direct you properly to understand this problem as I'm doing in this video, and also direct you properly into altering how you bend over for the next 6 months of your life, and you do the proper things, most of you will get out of this mess of a sciatica or severe back pain in less than a month. And then you'll have complete resolution of your problem for many years afterwards. I share a story with my own back. I probably injured it playing a lot of competitive tennis. It's always been a disc bulge that I've had, like this one on my left-hand side at the L5S1. I've had MRIs of my back. A few years ago, I had a really bad episode of back pain that I wondered, okay, is this my time? Is this the time that my disc will not heal up anymore? I'm happy to say my disc is perfect again, but I did go and I did have the MRI redone of the back, and the same pathology I had many years ago is still existent to this day. I've kept myself in good shape. I understand hip hinging. I apply it every day here in my office, as my table often has me bending forward quite a bit. And so it's very important for me to practice what I preach in this one and to bend over properly, and then I'm not having these problems. But the takeaway from this is there are plenty of non-surgical disc repair options for you, Mackenzie extension being the primary one. Dr. Stuart McGill's teachings about hip hinging and how to bend over properly, these are extremely powerful. Do you need surgery? Well, here's when you might need surgery. You've had the problem for a long time. conservative efforts are failing you. So if you're in tremendous pain, by all means, you need to go and have that pain resolved. The pain itself can become a loop. I actually had this happen to me a few years ago. That episode I mentioned earlier is I had to block a pain cycle. I had simply waited too long. I let the thing fester too long. I thought I could fix it myself because I knew what I'm doing, and I realized I could not. Now, I did eventually, but I had to block the pain out with using some pain meds. But once I got the pain under control, I was able to get my movements going again and everything resolved without surgery. So I'm sure many of you watching this video are hoping, hey, can I get out of this without surgery? The answer is definitely yes, but that doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean that's going to happen quickly. You're gonna have to be patient. As I mentioned in a lot of my videos, patience is a real virtue when it comes to medical issues. The body does have self-reparative tools. They're not always perfect and they're not always quick. So if, in our quick fix society here, we're often looking for these answers very quickly and you're just not going to get them. So if you want to avoid surgery, you better start to become patient because things don't happen very fast, especially in severe forms of disc pathology. That New England Journal of Medicine article that I just cited earlier and you saw the picture of took 6 months to go away. But this 29-year-old female that's presented in that photo there was patient for 6 months, and she was the benefactor of having a back that's, where the regression has taken place sufficient enough that she could go back to her life and live pretty much pain-free, which is really nice. So what causes this thing bending over wrong, using our backs improperly over the years? Do you need surgery? Not all the time. It can repair. It happens by self-reparative mechanism, enzymatic processes that your body actually has available to it. So the first thing you do is stop bending over wrong, which continues to promote that same force that drove that gel material into those damaged fibrils in the first place. Bending over wrong, which is deflection load, which is letting your spine change that lordotic curve to a flat curve, and worse yet, into a kyphotic curve, which is when it folds forward. A back should be curved this way. And as it breaks down, it gets flatter and flatter and flatter, and then sometimes it goes the opposite way. We see this actually a lot more in necks, but it can happen in low backs as well. How long will it take? That's difficult. Make some outcome measures. So make some notes as to what you can do, range of motion wise, your VAS levels, which is the visual analog scale to your pain. So if you've come to a doctor's office and you circle the 8 on the box, because most of you are going to fill out an intake form, and that intake form is going to ask how severe your problem is on a 10 scale. We've always used the VAS. If it's an 8 and you're proceeding with therapies and it's now a 6 and a 5, you're on the right track. So we want that trend line. You might have some flare-ups along the way. You might re-aggravate it along the way because life demands things of you. But if your trend line is good, stick with it. Stick with those therapies, regardless of what they might be. And you're likely to resolve the disc problem without surgery. So I hope this helps you to understand the disc, how it works, and what your chances are of getting out of it without surgery. Take care.